Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'd like to do a video on my top 3 favourite localized Otome games. By localized it means, they're basically available in English, which means they're available to a much wider audience, which is great because more people I can talk about it to. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about my favourite ones purely because, we all have different opinions, so mine may not match yours, but I thought it'd be interesting for you guys to know my way of thinking about which ones are my favorites or not, that sort of thing. And if you do have different favorites, I'd be more than happy if you were to comment, and then we can talk about it and stuff, and that would be really fun. But yeah, so that's kind of the thought of this video. But before I start, I'd like to note that although I personally don't consider any of what I include in this video as spoilers, I am aware that some people, would class spoilers as, different sort of things. So I'm going to just quickly mention that what I will be including is kind of a quick plot to describe what the game is about, the kind of thing you'd read in the back of like a blurb basically, and also maybe key characteristics of the characters that I particularly liked. However, I will not be mentioning any, plot twists or things that happen in the story or in the roots, that sort of thing. I will not be including that sort of thing in this video, so don't feel worried about that. However, if you are hypersensitive to spoilers and would just rather not know anything about the game, then feel free to move on. But anyway, let me start. So I'll probably go from, my third favourite to my absolute favourite. In third place, I would say comes Piofiore, Fated Memories. This game is a mafia game. I have done a review on this game, and basically the sort of plot would be that there's this main character Lily, and she ends up kind of getting involved into almost a mafia war, you could argue, because there are 3 mafias in this game, and they all have different roots, different characters in each one. And but yeah, it's very much about how this girl, for various reasons I will not mention, end up being dragged into this fight between the mafias. And yeah, it's kind of the story of how she ends up with one of these characters and her life from where the game starts till the end. So it is very there is a lot of bloodshed and craziness. The bad endings are infamous, I must admit. But the reason why it's my sort of I put it in third place and is one of my favorites is because, and other people have said this as well, it's very much the romance is very dreamy. The scenes are very, very sort of oh, that really makes me feel giddy, whatever. So there is a lot of romance, and some of the scenes are so steamy and juicy as hell. So I find that fun. And some of the endings honestly are horrific, really horrific, but I think they've put a lot of effort into the bad endings. So even those who are scared of, playing the bad endings, which I totally understand because I used to be like that, I would really recommend, just trying to embrace the fact that this is going to be a bad ending, have that steel heart, and then put yourself into that bad ending, because they are so good. Honestly, my absolute favorite bad ending ever in all Otome games is actually in this game, and it's Yang's bad ending, and it is my favorite ending, even amongst the best endings. That's the crazy part. His worst ending is my favorite ending. So yeah, I would say one of the reasons is the steamy, dreamy romance scenes between Lily and the characters, as well as sort of some of the crazy endings. I think, yeah, I know I've already said it, but some of them are really crazy, and for that reason I think they're really good, especially when you've played, you're really invested in this game, and then you get to the end and you're whoa, that happened, that's amazing. It's just good, it's just really good. However, I have heard from I guess the Western side, so those opinions were pretty much similar for both, I think, in sort of the Japanese opinions I've heard, as well as kind of the Western, more English side that I've listened to. However, one thing that I have seen a difference is that often people in the West who have played it were a little bit unhappy with how Lily is as a person. So a lot of people saw her as maybe a bit weak and objectified and being this girl that just can't, you know, do anything for herself and all this. But to be honest, I personally, and this is coming from a Japanese side as well, I personally saw it as you've got this girl that's thrown into like, you know, these mafia guys. If you don't, let's face it, if you don't obey what these mafia people tell you to do, you're gonna die. So I personally think the intelligent thing you would do is like just follow their orders and try not to anger them. So I personally thought that the way Lily was and how she behaved around the mafia was fair enough. I think no matter who you are, whether you're a guy or a girl or whatever, I think that behaviour seems appropriate, and that's why I didn't feel that way. But I totally understand those who did feel that way. If they like a strong main character, then I can see why they may not enjoy it. But that was not an issue I had, but I just thought, you know, I'll throw it out there just in case, because I don't think I mentioned it in my review video. But yeah, so that was my third favourite. Oh, and not to mention the graphics, the music, it all just came together and everything. It was just good. That's all I can say. I'm trying to be objective, but to be fair, this is, you know, a favourites video, so I think it's allowed for me to be a little bit subjective. But yeah, so that was my number 3. My second favourite was Amnesia. This is a really, I found it very, I think the world of it is what I really enjoyed about this game. The plot line is kind of around the lines of, well, judging by the title, Amnesia, you can probably guess that it's about the main character who has lost her memories, and it's kind of hard to explain, because at the beginning you kind of choose which world, like you get the option of spade, heart, diamond, whatever, and each one is kind of, this is like where you choose your character in a way. And what's weird is it's almost like there's all these different worlds based in the same location, but depending on which world you pick, the characters are the same, but they're all like, okay, put it this way, one time this particular character may be your best friend in one world, but when you pick another world, she's like your love rival or something. Do you see what I mean? Like each character looks the same, is the same, however, depending on what world you pick, they end up being like different. I don't know how to explain this. I don't think I explained myself very well, but the plot line is something around the lines of, there's this main character, she's lost her memories, and this fairy randomly appears and asks her which world, and then you just pick one, and then it's all about her trying to almost conceal the fact that she's lost all her memories, and then trying to get through life with each of those characters. And what I really enjoyed about it was kind of like that feeling of memory loss. So for example, when you play one of the, I mean all of the characters really, when you're playing it you think, oh, I think I know what's happening, but then you can't help but question, wait, but she doesn't actually remember, so maybe this person isn't actually trustworthy, or is he telling the truth? Like you can't help but question all these things, and it's very difficult to kind of grasp what's happening, because there's all these memory bits that have like been lost, and the fact that you can really feel it is what I really enjoyed about this game. And it's very creepy, let's put it that way. It's just a bit unsettling in many ways, and that's why I like this game so much. It's just, and the plot twists sometimes, some of them you just don't really expect it, and yeah, there's something about it, right, that I really enjoy, and this is why I put it in second place, because it's just really good in it. And don't get me wrong, like I don't like horror games and stuff, I don't normally like things that freak me out a bit, but with this game it's different. There's just something about it where you see things that are a bit worrying and a bit creepy, and you get a lot of bad endings. You know, it's the same as Piofiore. You can get loads of, by bad endings I mean like dead endings, where you might die because of like some reason or another. You get loads of them, right? But for some reason it's fun. It's kind of like, oh okay, that didn't work, okay, let me try this other thing. I know that sounds ridiculous, but yeah, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but just play it, you know. If you really want to experience like this sense of amnesia, of not having the memories and having to kind of almost fumble your way through the story of that character and the love interest, yeah, definitely it's really good, because it's fun not only to see the character development of the person you've picked, but also like how they are as a couple, like, because that person may or may not know that you've lost, well, the main character's lost her memory, and yeah, sometimes it's really hard to hide the fact that she's lost her memory, you know, when you pick the choices and things. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to ruin it, but it's this eerie, gives chills in your spine feeling that I really liked about it, and yeah, that's why I put it in second place. Now for the number one, my absolute favourite out of all localized Otome games has got to go to Malice. Now, Malice is about this girl who's a detective. Well, I say detective, probably more like policewoman. Yeah, she's a policewoman, and she lives in this city called Shinjuku. So I guess the same name as you'd get in Shinjuku in Japan, but it's a different type of Shinjuku. And the problem is, it's all been cordoned off because it's been kind of terrorized by a terrorist group. Now, one night she gets taken away, and the terrorist group has put a collar on her neck, hence why I guess call it Malice, and it's connected to the terrorist group, and they can observe everything she's doing and hear everything she's doing and all of this, and it basically threatens her: if you don't do as we tell you to, then we're gonna kill you, because there's this poison in it. And it's a story about her journey on this happening to her all the way until the end. And what I really enjoy about this game, and if it was a book, it was a real page turner, because I could not stop playing it. This is quite rare for me with Otome games. Usually I take quite a few breaks, but like with this, I could not stop playing it. And the reason being is that each of these, like when you go through each of the characters, you learn a little bit more about certain members of this terrorist group. So you almost see like a little patch of this terrorist group, like little glimpses of it from the perspective of all these different terrorist group members, and then at the end it all comes together and you find out everything. And honestly, it feels so good when you find out all about what's happened. And yeah, it's just really interesting, because it's the way it all comes together. Honestly, the more you play it, the more you want to learn about the terrorist group, and yeah, that's what keeps you going. And each of the characters are quite, again, this is another game where there's lots of endings, and this isn't really a spoiler. There is one bit where it's like, oh, do you go through this dark, short pathway, or do you take this long, lighter pathway? And you're like, oh, curiosity is killing me, because apparently a scream's being heard from this pathway, and in your mind you're like, you know you're gonna die if you go there, because come on, let's face it, in the middle of a dodgy, you know, city, and you've got a dodgy pathway, alleyway, I'm gonna go down it. It's an Otome game where you die often, you're gonna die, but then your curious side is like, do it. So of course you do it after quick saving, and then you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, so that I wouldn't class that as much of a spoiler, purely because yeah, it's very obvious, but that is something that happens, and things like that, little things like that happen throughout the whole thing. Some are less obvious than others. So like, I really struggled with the final route. I had to look up a guide, because I kept on going down the bad route like over and over again, so I did have to look that one up. But yeah, clearly I like games that have a lot of bad endings, because all of these have so many death endings. Oh my god, what is wrong with me? None of them in comedy. But anyway, so yeah, that's my top favourite. I guess if we were to talk about characters in Piofiore, my favourite was, of course, Yang. He's my favourite. I know it's bad, but yeah, there's no way I can like any of the other ones when I played Yang. In Amnesia, my favorite has got to be Toma. So now, you know, for those who have played these games, you can see the pattern here of the quirky characters being my favorites. And then Colin Malice, I liked Kei Okazaki, and the reason I like him is because he's such a weirdo, you know, like he's such a weirdo. So that's basically my favorite characters from those 3 games, and I don't think any of them I really had a character that I couldn't bear playing, because typically I personally can't really enjoy the characters that look like too young. So for example, if I were to come up with a couple of examples, there's a character in Diabolic Lovers, what's his name? Kanato, that's it. He looks like a child and I really struggled to play him. There's a couple of others, I think, and I can't think of one top of my head. Oh, Himuka from Olympia Soiree, although he was a bit more bearable because of the good storyline. Again, he's another one that looks quite young, so I've struggled to enjoy him as well. But like, there were no characters like that where I really struggled to enjoy. They were all enjoyable, and that's another reason why I really recommend these top 3 games. And I feel like some of you may disagree with me, because these 3 are very, very sinister, you know, gritty, bloodshed type games. So if you're not into that, then you're probably more likely to enjoy something like Cafe Enchante, where there's some emotion behind it, but it's still like quite nice and pretty looking rather than a bit like dodgy. So for people like that, I can see why you would disagree with me, but those are my personal favorites. Now moving on to a couple of localized games that I have played other than those 3, Hakuoki, which is my very first Otome game actually, and it was a localized game, and it's about the Shinsengumi, and it's a historical fiction. It's see, I really enjoy it, it's good, but the problem is, one, there isn't that much romance. I guess you would expect that from olden days Japan, like, you know, publicly speaking. And another issue I had is it's so depressing, because again, it's historical fiction. You kind of know what's going to happen to the characters if you've read up the sort of history side of it. And I mean, the first time, I don't know why I decided to play that as my very first Otome game, because I felt like I had like the one character I played, I felt like I was depressed for 2 days or 3 days after I played his route. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't put it in my favorites. It's just, I had such bad experiences. Don't get me wrong, I had good ones as well, but my very first playthrough of it was horrific, and there's so many characters, so that's why it's not in my favorite. Another one that I have played is Psychedelica of the Black Butterfly. So this game was a weird one. I didn't really enjoy it for the first few hours. Like, I just kind of was like, this isn't really for me. I just don't, because there wasn't that much romance, and there were a lot of side stories, and I'm not really a huge fan of side stories, so that's why it probably didn't really appeal to me as much as a lot of other games. However, the more you played, the more you wanted to know, because again, this is a game where the main character's lost her memories. Here we go. So you can't help but really want to know why she thinks the way she is, and why all the other characters are behaving the way they are, and you just want to know more and more and more. So then you keep on playing it, and that's the kind of game it was. And when I got to the end, I really was glad that I continued playing it, even if I didn't enjoy it to start with, because it was good. I really enjoyed how it ended, and knowing about everything that happened. It was just good, and I enjoyed it. So for those of you who have started it and are like, this is not for me, please try and continue playing it, because you might just like actually enjoy it at the end. So yeah, that's my advice on that. And what else have I played? Oh, Cafe Enchante. So the reason why that's not in my favorites is because although I really enjoyed it, it was maybe too fantasy based for me, and I think each word was just so too different for me. Like, you know, I really struggled to get my mind around each one because it was just so different. And although I really enjoyed it, the romance wasn't quite there. It very much felt like, yay, they finally got together. Oh, it's ended. So we need a fan disc. We need a fan disc to see the continuation of the romance, because I did enjoy it. I just wanted a bit more. That's all. Wanted a bit more of that romance. Oh, and Code Realize. I have played Code Realize. That's another one. Code Realize Guardian Rebirth. Again, that's kind of similar to me in terms of Cafe Enchanté. I really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, and the story was great. I love the characters, particularly Fran. He was really cute. That was fun. But the romance wasn't quite there, as you'd expect from the storyline. So I guess that's why there's fan discs. There's 2 fan discs, so I should probably crack on and try playing those. And who knows, this might creep into my, you know, top 3. Which reminds me, Malice does have a fan disc, so if you felt like the romance wasn't, because Malice very much is a story game more than a romance game, so if you felt like that was lacking, I haven't personally played it, but there is a fan disc called Malice Unlimited, and yeah, I think you'd enjoy that. I've heard really good things about it, so that's that as well. But anyway, I think that concludes my top 3 favourite Otome game video. Thank you very much for all those who actually watched this until the end. I am kind of surprised, as it was very, you know, me rambling on kind of video. Do comment below and let me know your thoughts on the localized games, and, you know, games that you suggest to me that I have not played yet, because I just obviously told you the ones I have played, but there's some that I haven't played, like Seven Scarlet and Psychedelica of the Ashen Hawk. I also haven't played Period Cube. I haven't played Norn 9. So yeah, there's quite a few that I have not played yet, so if you do have suggestions for me to play, I'd be more than happy to read your comments and kind of take that information in, because I do really want to get through the localized ones, and it would be good to know what ones are out there, if you know what I mean. I mean, some I may not even know exist, so I'd really appreciate that. Also, one more thing I'd like to ask before I finish this video. So I know I do review videos for the localized games, like the ones that I've recently played. However, some of you have sort of asked me about whether I would do review videos on unlocalized games, so games that are only available in Japanese. And though I have not done this, I'm kind of curious as to whether there would be enough people who would be interested in that. So if you would be interested in my reviews on Otome games that are unlocalized and only available in Japanese, please do let me know, and I will kind of consider it as one of my future videos. But anyway, again, thank you very much for watching and listening till the very end, and hopefully I'll see you in another one of my videos. Bye!